want to welcome you to our Applying to Grad School workshop. Thank you for being here. I know it has been a long day after your amazing presentations, but this is, one of the workshops that will benefit you. And also you're going to know more about funding for grad school. And this afternoon, we're going to have from the Grad Division, Edgar Beas, and he is the Student Services Advisor. And also we're going to have Aaron Ward. He is the National Science Foundation Graduate Research Fellowship Program recipient. Without further ado, I will pass it to Edgar Beas. Thank you.
Thank you, Veronica, for the introduction. Hello, everybody. Thank you, Aaron. And we're going to go ahead and get started today with our presentation. And as Veronica said, my name is Edgar Beas. I am a Grad Diversity Officer for the Office of the Graduate Division on campus. I do these kinds of recruitment and outreach and graduate school application presentations for students, and I'm happy to be here with you. We are going to go ahead and go over the set of slides that I have prepared for you, and after we go through the set of slides, we're going to have Aaron go through his presentation, and we're going to have a Q&A. Awesome. So what we're going to do is let's go ahead and begin this by going over the different graduate school application components. What this presentation and these slides are meant to leave you with is a set of recommendations and general advice for putting together a strong graduate application, right? So we're going to go over the different components of what a graduate application has, and we're going to talk about each and every one of these, right? We're going to make a parentheses when we get to the GRE, because we're in a special year, and those individuals that are applying for programs this year to start in fall 2021 might have, an opportunity to get some chances with the GRE. But we're going to make that comment a little later. Let's start with the graduate application component. That is this is the list of the different components of a graduate application. Before we go into the very first one, which is the online application form, let's go ahead and just review what the types of degrees that are out there for you. So again, there's master's, professional, and doctoral degrees. These are just the three main types of the graduate programs that are available for anybody. And I want to go over really quickly about these three types of programs, because as we are going through the slides of the graduate application, you're going to see you're going to notice some differences between all of these applications. So what a graduate application for a master's programs might look like will be different than the ones for the doctoral programs, right? So it would also depend on the type of institution, the school that you're applying, the program that you're applying, and the conditions that you're applying under. Okay, so again, generally speaking, master's and professional degrees are 1 to 2 years in length. Typically, they're a little longer if you're doing part-time. Master's and professional degrees are coursework based mainly. The main difference here between a master's and a professional degree is that the professional degree includes an internship or field work, and the final requirement is typically a comprehensive exam or a project. A doctoral degree is typically 5 to 7 years. Courses are only in the first couple of years of the program, and there is a final requirement to do a presentation, a dissertation, and to do research. Okay, so depending on the field of study and your discipline, a terminal degree may be a master's or a doctoral program. And again, that just depends on the field that you're studying. All right. So let's talk about the first component of the graduate application, and that is the online application form. General recommendations are that when you are thinking about applying to a specific school, you start an account, right? So you have to start an account, you create your profile, then you can start an online graduate application. We recommend that you follow instructions very closely, that you list your name on top of every document that you submit. So transcripts, documents that prove test scores, or any other type of document that you submit either via email or mail, that you can have at least your name in either the document or the file name. Make sure that you submit the online application before the first deadline. Sometimes some programs might have more than 2 deadlines, and we just recommend that you try and make the first deadline. Make sure that you complete all the fields, right, in the form. Make sure that nothing is empty. Make sure that if there's something empty or that doesn't apply to you, that you type in does not apply. Ensure the application is filled completely. So these are just general recommendations for the online application. Typically in these online applications, there's going to be different sections. So there might be a section for letters of recommendation. There might be a section to upload your statement of purpose. And that's what we're going to go ahead and talk about now. So the second component that I want to talk to you today about is transcripts. So transcripts, you typically need to submit official transcripts for every institution that you attended after high school. That means that if you attended an undergraduate institution, a community college, or if you were applying to, in this case, since all of you, I imagine, are currently in undergrad, you might not be, the last bullet point there might not apply to you, but if you had a previous graduate degree, transcripts from that institution, that program will apply as well. Number 3, we have the resume. So our general recommendations for a resume and for turning a resume is developing a professional looking resume, having a subject matter expert edit it. So there's a couple of ways that you can go about this. So the first one that we recommend is that definitely you keep visiting the Career Center at your campus. So either you are a UC San Diego student or you are a student in some other campus, visit your Career Center, your career advisors that can help you, take advantage of their services and help you refine your resume, right? And make it as professional as possible. After that, after you have a final draft, have a subject matter expert edit it. So maybe ask a graduate student, ask someone in your department, professor, right? Someone take a look at it and see if there's something that they would add, right? This is very important when it comes down to applying to grad school because committees that are made up of professionals in that specific field will be reviewing your application. So it is important that things that you need to take in consideration to add to your resume that might be specific to one field versus another, that you make sure that are there. Make sure that you also list only applicable information. So if you have a list of a variety of different jobs that you've had in the past or different experiences that might not specifically apply to what you're applying, in this case to a graduate program in a specific field. So make sure that you only list that applicable information. Bold quantitative data such as GPA and GRE scores. Just try and highlight it right in your resume. The people that are reviewing these applications will find it. So even if you are not, too happy with your GPA or GRE scores, make sure that you bold it. It's just a good practice to get into, bolding everything that has to do with quantitative data. The max length for your resume should be only maximum 2 pages. So max 1 to 2 pages is the recommended. And then there might be some institutions or some programs that might ask you for a CV or might ask you for either a CV or a resume. The difference between a CV is that typically if you have any publications or any other types of items that might not fit a resume really well, you might need a CV. That is something that I will leave you to consult with your career advisors. So again, visit your career center at your campus, make sure that you talk to them and ask them also if you need a CV instead, if you think you need a CV instead. Make sure that you also create different resumes for different purposes. So if you're applying for grad school and then you're applying for a fellowship, and if you're applying for funding, that you create different resumes for all of those. Number 4 is letters of recommendation. One of the most important things that a graduate application has, right? So preferably individuals applying to PhD programs, we say try and get letters from faculty, right? That is the general rule. Number 2, do not submit personal letters from friends or family, right? This is a general recommendation just to get you to get you thinking about who can recommend you, right? And these, again, as I said, they could be faculty, they could be mentors, they could be people that have been close to you and working close to you throughout the last few years, and that know your work and then know your work style. Categorize your letters. Make sure that you have a second tier, a third tier. In this case, let's just say that there's only 2 letters of recommendation that are required for you for the program, but you have 5 letters, right? If you're able to see those letters and to categorize them, or have your first tier of like your closest mentors or the people that you think are gonna write a better letter for you, consider them your top and then go from there, right? Establish like a second level, a third level of letters. These letters must be from individuals who can speak to your ability, to your research and or academic performance. So again, these preferably from faculty or people who have been close to you in research. And there's a difference between generic letters and glowing letters, right? So hopefully you all can get to a point where you can ask faculty for a glowing letter. I know that there's some questions in the chat, so please in the Q&A section, keep putting those questions in there. We'll answer them at the end. Continuing on the letters of recommendation. So again, our general advice is that you ask before you submit their name and contact. So a lot of the times what's going to happen is that when you're filling out the online application, there's going to be a section where you're going to have to put the names and the emails of those individuals that are recommending you. So make sure that you ask them, right? They know that that email is coming, because after you click, submit, as far as like submitting their name, they're going to get an email saying, please go ahead and submit a letter. This person asked for your letter of recommendation, right? So make sure that you do the ask and that you do it professionally. Make sure that you meet with your recommender, or that you meet with them and they know about your intention ahead of time. So for those of you who are applying, starting to apply this fall for fall 2021, summer is a good time. So after you're done with this program, with your work at UC San Diego, as far as like this summer goes, do not wait until the fall. Ask them now. Start talking to them if you haven't started already, and that's going to make a huge difference. You need a strong letter of recommendation. Again, this is an important section of the graduate application. If the recommender slightly hesitates about writing the letter, we would say don't do it, and try and find somebody else that is willing to write you that letter, and to, again, hopefully write you that glowing letter instead of a generic one. In order to recommendations for asking for a letter is obviously get to know your recommender before you ask them. Try and do some undergraduate research. So through this program, you've met wonderful mentors and individuals who could potentially be your recommenders, right? But and hopefully you got some time to get to know them, and you had enough hours with them, online, to get to know them a little bit, for them to get to know you a little bit too, what your intentions are, what you're planning to do. Make sure that if you have them as professors, make sure that you perform well in their courses, that you read their publications, that that you ask them to be your mentor if possible. So again, this requires time, and continue to nurture those relationships throughout. When you ask them, make sure that you give them at least 3 weeks of notice. We recommend 3 to 5 weeks of notice, just because Many of these individuals who get these requests, they're getting many during a year. So make sure that you give them enough time for them to actually, you know, uh, put you as one of the individuals who will receive a letter from them. Make sure that you give them background information, especially if they ask you for it. You know, they might know you. They might know you from interactions that you've had, but maybe they were your professor a year ago, right? Make sure that you remind them, hey, this is me. You know, background information, and then make sure that you follow up. Going forward with the statement of purpose, the statement of purpose is a very important piece of writing that you have to submit as part of your graduate application. It describes your career goals and how your past experiences have prepared you for this path, of graduate school. It should be customized for research happening at the Department of Application. Make sure that you tie your interest directly to potential advisors and their research as well. Some tips for a good statement of purpose are be concise. Make sure that you focus on future goals and how your experiences have prepared you for these goals. Make sure that you identify gaps quickly. So if there's anything that you might have, uh, that you might have something that you're not proud of, like just say like you didn't have the best GPA or some test score or something. If there's a gap like that that you feel like you need to identify and talk about, make sure that you do that. And then you do it swiftly and quickly because they're going to see it either way in your application. Do not write about your deficiencies in great lengths. So make sure that you maybe talk about them, a couple sentences and move on, right? Write and rewrite and have others edit it and customize as much as possible, right, to every single department or program that you're applying. You don't want to, the worst thing that you could do is, submit a statement of purpose with one institution, one institution's name that you're applying to another institution, and then they're seeing where you're applying, right? So make sure you customize it, you check it before you submit it. All right. I want to go ahead and skip that and talk about what the difference is between a personal statement and a statement of purpose. So a personal statement, sometimes it is required from some individuals, depending on the program. Typically, it's a statement of purpose, but a personal statement describes your background and life experiences in more length, right? We recommend that you talk about your life experiences such as social, cultural, economic, familial, education, and other that motivated you to pursue graduate education. And again, it goes a little more personal in that sense. Discuss your history, your personal history in some depth, and as it relates to your academic development particularly. So make sure that if there's things that you can tie back to your personal experiences that are particularly, related to what you're doing, what you're applying to, make sure that you add those. So let's take a quick guess here and talk about the GRE now. So when do you think is the best time to take the GRE? Give you a couple seconds for this, so just think about it. So the best time to take your GRE is the spring of junior year. Don't, uh, you know, don't freak out if you're a senior or you're going to be senior and you already missed this spring of junior year. This is the best time, right? But I mean, if any of you were juniors this past year, as far as this past academic year, the whole pandemic situation really took a toll on the GRE situation. So really, you might have not have a chance to take the GRE, right? Hopefully during the summer, you had an opportunity to take some GRE prep courses, or you had some access to some GRE materials and preparation. So hopefully you're ready to take it as soon as you can. It is really, really important that for those individuals that are applying specifically this year for next, that you take the GRE as soon as possible, right? So maybe take it after you're done, right, with this program. And since all the material is fresh in your head, go ahead and take it. General recommendations for the GRE. Again, this is a computer-based exam with 3 general sections, which are math, verbal, and writing. There are some discipline-specific exams depending on the program and field. They might be required. Make sure that you use your resources such as online practice exam and campus workshops to access materials and preparation materials and practice materials as well. Submit your GRE schools with the admissions packet. So make sure that you are entering the schools that you're applying to and that the GRE organization knows who you're applying to so they can send the scores as well. Some institutions, the GRE is required for funding, but I mean, that is in some, right? So I want to make the parentheses that I promised you to do in the GRE because under this pandemic, we've seen a lot of graduate programs, not requiring the GRE anymore. So I just want to make sure that as you are inquiring and looking up different graduate programs out there, that you also ask them if they're requiring the GRE for this next year, particularly because there hasn't been many appointments to take the GRE. I know that for some time the GRE wasn't offered. So again, I think institutions of higher education, graduate schools are, being a little flexible in this matter. So tips are take the GRE even if the school does not require it, right? So you might encounter a program where 3 out of the 5 schools that they're applying do not require the GRE, but take it for the other 2, right? And see what score you get. Maybe you get a really good score, and this would be an add-on, right, to even the institutions that do not require the GRE. Take as many free practice exams to be familiar with the format of the test, and make sure that you also watch for score submission deadlines because some of the scores might take a little long, and you want to make sure that you meet the deadlines for your program. So that is all from me. I can answer questions. Veronica, can we spend some time, like 5 minutes answering questions, and then we can transition into Aaron? I think we should be good. So
yeah, I think that's fine. Yeah,
okay,
that's okay. Mm-hmm.
Thank you. All right, so there are some questions that I would like to talk about. So someone is asking about a thesis. And a thesis during the master's program. How long will a thesis be on average for a master's program? So thesis depends on the type of master's program. My recommendation is there's no general rule as far as like how long it would be. The thesis really will depend on your type of research and your type of project that you're doing. If you're working on something with your mentor and requires an extensive, you're doing extensive research, it would depend on how long your thesis would be. So my recommendation is just to talk to your mentor and to talk to the individuals that are currently doing, if you're looking for that master's program, that maybe you talk to the individuals that are currently in that master's program to get a better sense of how long or what is the requirement specifically around their thesis. Are there any programs or offices on campus, I'm imagining, with UC San Diego that offer advice on what programs to apply to? The grad division is always open to answer questions or to sit down with one of our advisors and talk about options for grad school. We typically don't have those services established, but we're always happy to chat with any student that might be interested, especially if you're interested in UC San Diego, because that's sort of what we do as well. For community college students, someone's asking, who should we ask for recommendation letters since we had less time at the 4-year institution in this case? Can we ask someone from our community college? Absolutely, yeah. Thank you for asking that question. You can ask people in your faculty, in this case, from your community college are definitely a good option. We really recommend, again, so as soon as you start either here at UC San Diego or another four-year institution, that you start building those relationships from the get-go, right? That's why it's really important to, if you are sort of in that stage of transition into UC San Diego or any other four-year institution, that as soon as you start in the fall, you start building those relationships, right, with faculty. Okay. So there are some other questions which I'll answer in the chat, but so typically someone's asking, do the faculty submit letters of recommendation through the college app portals? And then how recent would it be to ask them to submit a letter to like 5 different colleges? So one general recommendation about this, just know that your faculty are getting these requests, and faculty get them all the time, and they not only get them from you, but they get them from other individuals. So just know that they're used to this. My recommendation is that if you're planning to apply to 5 different colleges or 10 different colleges for graduate programs, that you just establish those expectations since the beginning, right? So you talk about those things when you meet with your mentors ahead of time. It's not like, hey, the deadline is next week and I need you to write 5, or I need you to submit a letter for 5 different colleges. That is too short of a notice, right? So my general recommendation is definitely build those expectations at the beginning, and have faculty know that you're applying to more than one or more than a couple different programs. They typically know that you're applying to 2, 3, even 5 of them, but I mean, if it's more than that, definitely build those expectations at the beginning. Okay, so it's 5 o'clock, and to respect everyone's time, I'm going to go ahead and transition and let Aaron start his presentation, but I'm going to go ahead and answer some of these questions in the chat. So thank you everyone for asking them, and continue to ask them. I'll be in the chat for a few more minutes. Aaron.
Hi, Edgar. Thank you. Hello, everyone. Good afternoon. Let's see. Let me bring up my slides here. All right. So again, hello, everybody. Good afternoon. My name's Aaron Ward. I am a 6th-year PhD student here at UCSD in the Department of Chemistry and Biochemistry. For those of you who are part of the IMSD program, I am also an MBRS IMSD alum. And like Veronica mentioned earlier, I applied and was awarded the NSF GRFP back in 2015, and that's the National Science Foundation Graduate Research Fellowship program. And so what I'm going to talk about, and someone asked this question, is your funding for graduate school. Because as we all realize, it's probably not free. Wait, why is my screen not turning? There, okay. So like I said, I'm going to talk about how to fund your graduate studies. So as I mentioned before, this is going to focus primarily on the National Science Foundation Graduate Research Fellowship, which I was awarded. And since I know about this, I'm going to talk about it, but there's a lot of overlap amongst this and all other fellowships and scholarships. And also a lot of the advice that Edgar gave you regarding applying to graduate schools, there's a lot of overlap with that also. So I'm gonna piggyback off a lot of what he said. So first of all, what is a fellowship and why do you even care about a fellowship? These are some of the things I'm gonna talk about today. What is the NSF GRFP? What is the goal and the purpose of the NSF GRFP? Why should you apply to the GRFP, the NSF GRFP? I'm going to talk about the components of the application and a handful of tips, tricks, and some advice on putting together a successful fellowship application. So what is a fellowship, first of all, and why should you care? So graduate programs may or may not financially support students. And what that means is you may come out of graduate school with debt, and nobody wants that. And so what you can do is you can apply for a fellowship, and a fellowship will pay all or part of your tuition and also your stipend, which stipend is a fancy word for, it's a scholarly word, I guess you could say, or academic term for a paycheck. It's your paycheck for while you're going to graduate school. So again, you get a paycheck and it pays for your tuition, so you come out debt-free. Some institutions and programs will say that they support you, but that support will frequently and often all the time be limited, either in the amount of money that they support you and the duration that they support you. I think some will support you for, say, 7 years or something to that effect, or only 50%, but fellowships can supplement that support, either in the tuition or stipend or both. And so fellowships can either be internal fellowships or external fellowships. And what that means is the school has certain funding that it can give to you as a fellowship and help pay for your tuition and or stipend, or there are external programs such as the National Science Foundation or the National Institute of Health or others that will provide a fellowship. And again, those are outside of the school, and you get those independent of the school. So the purpose, and this is directly from the website of the NSF GRFP. The purpose of the National Science Foundation Graduate Research Fellowship Program is to ensure the vitality and diversity of the STEM workforce in the United States. And that includes social sciences. So again, the whole purpose of this fellowship is to keep the staff of STEM workers in the United States at its highest level. Now, who is eligible? Research-based master's and doctoral students are eligible in the STEM field, and again, also in social sciences. You need to have completed no more than 12 months of full-time graduate study or its equivalent by August 1st. So again, this particular fellowship isn't limited to just PhD students. Master students are eligible as well. The one caveat is you do have to be a US citizen to be eligible for the NSF, as I'll abbreviate it. There are other fellowships that you have opportunity to earn if you're not a citizen, but this particular one, it's paid through US tax dollars, and so they insist that only US citizens are eligible. And so how long do you get support? So you get 3 years of support. And what that means is 3 academic years, well, 3 calendar years actually. But as I'll mention later, you have 5 years to use that support. And so if for some reason you're awarded the award, say in 2020, but simultaneously in 2020 you receive some other fellowship that say is a 2-year fellowship, you can defer your NSF fellowship for 2 years. You can wait, and then in 2022 you can start taking your fellowship, your NSF, and then it'll run through 2022, 23, and 2024. And so currently the NSF pays a stipend of $34,000 a year for 12 months of the year and your tuition. I think the tuition it pays currently is $12,000 in tuition. So again, this is, it's a step up and above what some institutions' stipends are. I know here at the UCSD Department of Chemistry, I think our stipend is $32,000 a year. So again, if you receive the NSF, then you make an extra $2,000 a year. So that's not bad. In addition to that, one thing that's really nice about this, and I'll mention, I don't think I put this in my slides, is a lot of institutions will sort of pay you a bonus, I guess you would call it, for getting this external fellowship. So here at UCSD, again, so this essentially equates to what, $120,000 a year, somewhere in that neighborhood, or not $120,000 a year, but $120,000 plus your tuition. So you're looking at over $150,000 that you've brought to the university that the university doesn't have to pay. And so what the university will do is they'll say, hey, you saved us $150,000. We're gonna give you a bonus of say $5,000 because you saved us $150,000. And a lot of institutions will do that. The UCSD chemistry department does that. And so there's a little extra incentive to do that. And you can use that either for lab supplies, or you can take it as a personal paycheck, however you want to do it, depending on the limits of the institution. And so the deadline for the NSF, depending on what field you're in, the deadline varies, sometime between mid-October and mid-November. In chemistry, I think it's usually right around the 1st of November. If you're in engineering, it might be before that. If you're biology, it might be before or later, but for the most part, it's right around that mid-October to mid-November deadline. And again, all this information is on the website, so you can look at the specifics there. So what are the advantages of this award? First and foremost, opportunities. One thing that as we're doing as young scientists and just young adults in general is it's one time of our lives that you'll have to build your resume. You'll probably hear that a lot, or build your CV. And earning money, as in a scholarship or a fellowship, is building your resume. And particularly if your goal is to go into research and science, you can't do science without money. And so if future employers or future investors see that you have a history of earning money and raising money yourself, that will give them confidence to later give you money for whatever reason. So that's one reason. And then it also just opens up the doors to other fellowships and other opportunities. For example, the Graduate Research Internship Program. This is only available to, it's abbreviated GRIP, it's only available to NSF awardees, where fellows can participate in mission-related collaborative research under the guidance of host research mentors at federal facilities and national laboratories. So there's the federal laboratories in Los Alamos, there's Virginia, the NIH. And so again, this gives you an opportunity to go to those institutions and do research. Additionally, there's the GROW, the Graduate Research Opportunities Worldwide, where this gives you an opportunity to travel on the federal dime. So fellows are provided an international travel allowance to engage in research collaborations with investigators in partner countries located outside the United States. So you get to expand your horizons, your cultural opportunities, expand your networking group, and look at research that's outside of your home base. And so again, these are great opportunities for scientists and just, I think, as people in general. It's great. The NSF also allows you opportunities to use facilities that you otherwise wouldn't be able to use. For example, here at UCSD, we have a supercomputer center. And as an NSF fellow, you have opportunity to use the supercomputer center. And then additionally, it just gives you leverage. Again, if you have paid for your own tuition and you have paid for your own stipend, that means the school doesn't pay for it, the department doesn't pay for it, your PI doesn't have to pay for it. And that gives you the power and the leverage to say, I would like to do this, or I would like to go to this institution. And whereas they may not have given you consideration or as much consideration before, now they could say, oh, you have $150,000 in assets, please come to us. Or, yeah, you can go ahead and do this because you have a little extra funding. So it's nice in that way. So let's say you apply and you are awarded this fellowship. What are your requirements, your obligations? What do you have to do? You have to fill out an annual progress report. Simple, easy peasy, I think. Tell them what you've done the last year. It's not terribly challenging. You have to declare your funding status, either deferred or active. Again, are you getting paid this year, or are you going to do, as I mentioned earlier, you're going to hold off for 2 years or even 1 year for whatever the case may be. What you do not have to do is you do not have to research what you proposed. So I didn't mention this yet, and I'll get to this in a moment, but as part of your application, you have to present a research proposal on what type of research you're going to do during graduate school. You are not obligated to do that research, not at all. This fellowship is really funding you as a potential researcher they're not funding the science that you're going to do. So you do not in any way have to do the type of research that you're writing about. I did not, so just a FYI. So let's talk about briefly the application packet. And again, a lot of this is going to overlap with what Edgar talked about earlier in your graduate school applications. There's an online application portion. I think we've probably all filled out an online application. There's not much to it. You'll need your personal statement and your personal relevant background statement and future goal statements. This is one statement, sorry. I think the format may have changed slightly. It may only be 2 pages now, but this is essentially what would be, equivalent to kind of like your statement of purpose in your graduate school application. And I would strongly recommend use some of those resources that you've already used, your applications in the past, your graduate school application. You should be transferring a lot of that information into this because it's, for the most part, a lot of it is similar. Your graduate research plan statement. Again, this is what is the research that you're going to do. When I go to graduate school, I'm going to do this research and I'm going to do it in this amount of time. This is what your graduate research plan statement is. And again, the actual research you do does not have to actually be this particular research. You need 3 strong reference letters. Again, Edgar talked about reference letters, but you need 3. You need your transcripts. And again, from all of your, I believe from all of your collegiate institutions, I don't think from your undergrad, from your high school institutions. No other information or documents. Don't send them letters from your, friends, family, mothers, grandmothers. Don't send any CDs or videos, anything like that. Just this. Stick to the basics. They don't want anything else. So, a couple of tips and tricks and advice on giving this, and then I'll answer questions. I'll go through a few of these and then we'll get to some of the Q&A questions. This seems like an obvious one, but read the application instructions and the prompts thoroughly before beginning. There's also hints on the website that says, okay, think about this, think about that. Read those and consider those as you're writing your essays and filling out your application. Your research, make sure your proposal is realistic and achievable. And your PI should be happy to help you with this. Don't write that you're going to time travel. It's absurd. It's ridiculous. But theoretically, well, not theoretically, you should work closely with the PI that you've done research with, and your PI should be happy to help you put this together. And so you should be familiar with your research. Say, just extend it. This is what I'm going to do in graduate school. And again, work back and forth with whatever PI you've worked with. And even if it's an institution you want to go to, perhaps reach out to a professor at that institution and maybe they will help you. Broader impacts are the key. And when I said broader impacts, how much money is your research going to save or earn, and how many people is it going to save or prevent from getting hurt? These are the 2 things that are really going to emphasize, or that are going to bring home your winning fellowship. How much money does it save, and how many people is it going to save? And again, Edgar mentioned this: edit it, review it, edit it, have other people review it, edit it, review it over and over and over again as many times as you possibly can. I can't emphasize that enough. Edit, 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 review, review, review. In your personal statement or the relevant background, be authentic and tell your story. A lot of us have similar stories, but we all have an individual motivation of what's guiding us on our path to graduate school through more importantly, our particular research. Tell that story of how you got there. Don't tell the story that you think they might want to hear about because it'll come off unauthentic. Tell your story. And then show your experience. I should have emphasized this word show, your experiences and your science. And when I say show, use examples. Don't just say, I'm a good scientist. Give an example of, I did this problem solving method under these conditions, and this is an example of how I'm a good scientist, or this is the experience that I have. And again, your end goal should be to further the field of science, and all your examples should point in this direction. If you are writing your application and your essays and your goal is to say, I want to get a PhD, or I want to get a master's, I want to, you know, have my own lab. That is a very short-term goal, and that is not what someone is going to fund you to do, because that only helps you. Again, broader impacts. What are you, as you become a scientist, and if you're given this money to develop your scientist skills, how is your science going to help the world, help the community? That's in every sentence, every paragraph of your essay should point to the direction of, I'm helping more than just myself. And then also, don't promote medical science. That's the National Institute of Health field. National Science Foundation is basic science. That's not to say you can't talk about the science of medicine, but be very cautious on how you tread that and navigate it. And then use your resources, don't reinvent the wheel. And what I mean is, your institution, I know UCSD Chem department has application banks of past award winners that are on file. My application is on file with the chemistry department here. I would imagine some of the different RU programs have winning applications as well. So go to those, use those as a template to see what works and what doesn't work. You know, it's a wonderful resource, and there's no need to start from scratch. So, and then just briefly, other fellowships to fund. And I'm going to run through this quickly. There's tons of information out there, but just to name a few, the National Institute of Health sponsors the NIH F31 Fellowship. An internal fellowship is at UCSD is the Interfaces Graduate Program. I think that's still at UCSD. Ford Foundation Fellowship, I think, is for people who want to go into teaching or academics. I think if you're a Mexican citizen, the UC Mexis Contact Doctoral Fellowship, if I'm saying that correctly, is an excellent fellowship for Mexican citizens. The San Diego Fellowship is a fellowship offered at UCSD. And that's all I have. I will take a look at the Q&A board, or if Veronica, you want to end the Q&A. That's all I have. So let's see. Let's look at the Q&A board. Where do these start? I'm going to start backward because I don't know where they start off. So what would you suggest conveying in emails to potential advisors, and should it be kept short with a CV? That is, I'm going to let Edgar handle that one, or at least I assume he would have. Is it recommended to apply to NSF fellowship after you already have secured a position at a graduate school? It's recommended to apply. I think now you can only apply once as a graduate student. So what I would recommend is apply as an undergrad before you go to graduate school. And then once you get to graduate school, apply again. Because as a graduate student, I believe now you can only apply one time. So make the most of your applications. So apply twice, once as an undergrad, one as a graduate student. What is the timeline for the GRFP application, and what is the right time to start working on it? Would you find out about whether you get it before graduate school applications or at the same time? The timeline, again, the deadlines are in right around the middle of, or the beginning of November. So I would start working on it. I started working on mine at the beginning of the summer before, and I really focused on it all summer. And I would think that would be sufficient. Let's see, is it grip? Hold on, this is moving. I see this one. Could you get multiple fellowships even if they are not related? You can get multiple fellowships. However, you can only be funded. There are federal rules and there are other rules with regards to fellowships. Specifically, federal rules are, I think you can only be funded by one at a time. So the NIH is a federal program, NSF is another. If you are awarded both, you can only accept one, I believe. However, you can accept non-federal funding, I believe. But certain institutions may have a maximum amount of funding that you can get. Let's see. What would you, and Veronica, if at some point, I'm going to go till 5:25 unless that's too late. And Veronica, that's too long. Stop me. Okay. What would you suggest conveying in emails to potential advisors? Oh, I saw that one already. Go up. Is GRIP for students who are already graduate students, or is that like a post-bac? So the GRIP and the GROW are both, you're only eligible for those if you have been awarded the NSF GRFP. So those are specific fellowships for NSF GRFP awardees. So you would have already been in graduate school, if that's the case. It's deadline to your first year. Again, the deadline is always right around November 1st, give or take a few weeks. Is urban studies and planning included in the fellowship? There's a whole list of what topics are eligible for the NSF GRFP. Right, this is moving a lot. Can people who have a green card permanent residence apply for the NSF? Again, I assume that means you're not a US citizen, so no. Currently, you have to be a US citizen to apply for the NSF. Should I go to graduate school that's going to put me in debt? That is a very personal decision that you should talk to friends and family and coworkers and others about that I cannot cover here. Do they pay for your housing and dining? No. Well, I shouldn't say no. I think typically no. Again, that's what your stipend is for. So here at UCSD, you get in the chem program, you get a stipend. There's graduate housing or there's off-campus housing. And so you're expected to pay for your housing with your stipend. And then I heard you bargain with a school. Yeah, I've heard that too. I haven't. I don't know who has personally, but supposedly you can. And so again, leverage is leverage. So that's good. And I'm going to wrap that up there. And Veronica, I'm going to let you take over from here. Thank you, everybody, for listening.
Thank you, Aaron. Thank you, Edgar. I'm very grateful to the Grad Division and, for you to be here. So I think we have time. Well, we need to start wrapping up. I just want everybody to know that this is a webinar. We're recording it. And then, the webinar will be available at AEP SRC webpage. So I think we're going to start wrapping. We all have a great day, a long day. And before we go, I just want to let you know that AEP is going to have another webinar on Tuesday. On Tuesday, August 18th, it's going to be the National Competitive Scholarships. And, we will send you the information. And if not, just visit our webpage and you're more than welcome to join us. Once again, it's going to be on Tuesday, August 18th at 4 p.m. Once again, Edgar, thank you very much. Aaron, thank you very much, and enjoy the rest of the afternoon. Goodbye now.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.